Today we're going to talk about data types and the structure of how a program is to be constructed and what all types of variables and are going to be used in a program. So let's look into data types. All variables use data type during declaration to restrict the type of data to be stored. That is, suppose you just want to store integer values alone. So here there we'll use an integer type, right? So each time if you want to store a restricted set of values, we use these type of data types. Now the format is data type variable name equal to initial. Variable name is the identifiers that we use. Example, we'll say for example if we are using integer data type, int a equal to 32, where int is the data type for integer values and variable name is a, and the value that we store in a is 32. Next, what is a variable? It is a named location in memory that is used to hold a value. Suppose if you want to declare a variable, it actually allocates memory in the computer so that we can store any set of values. When a variable is defined in C++, the compiler allocates a memory for that variable based on the data type used. If you want to store integer values and store, they allocate memory and they allocate space in the computer memory for the variable based on what data type we use. And each data types require different types of memories. Now these are the certain set of data types that we use in C++. First one is primary or fundamental data types. The other one is from fundamental data types we get derived data types, and the other is user-defined data types. Now let's look into each of it further in detail. Fundamental data types, also known as primary data types, these are data types that are used by the programmer directly to declare variables. These are some of the, let's say, the keywords used. Some of the keywords are used as data types here. Those are the fundamental data types and they are used directly by the programmer in the compiler. And as I said before, these are keywords, so they are predefined. See, and these are the primitive data types that are available in C++. One is integer, floating point, that is decimal values, double floating points, long decimal values, characters like letters A, B, C, D, like that, boolean like true or false, valueless or void like no value at all, just empty, and the other is a white character, that is the difference is that the difference between character and white character is that white character has more space required. Now, what is it integer? For integer data types, we use the keyword int and it carries 4 bytes in memory. Int a equal to 32 means we are storing an integer value in a variable a, and the size allocated in memory is 4 bytes. And in character, we use the keyword char and it requires only 1 byte in memory because all characters are stored. When we write characters in single quotes, its size in memory is 1 byte. And for boolean, for a keyword used for boolean data type is bu bool. And for floating point, keyword use of floating point is float and it requires 4 bytes in memory. For double floating point, it requires 8 bytes in memory, but the keyword use here is double so that we can distinguish between which one is the floating point and double floating point. Next is valueless or void. Here that keyword used is void. It's just to indicate that the variable used is empty. And usually voids are used for functions. It's quite less used in for variables. Next is void character. The keyword uses wchar underscore t. Next is derived data types from primitive data types. These data types are derived and That means we get these data types from fundamental data types, and there are four types of derived data types. One is function, array, pointer, reference. Functions are small nodules used in programs when you want to break a huge program into small parts. We use functions. And array is when you want to store more than one value. When you want to store a set of values, you use array. And pointer is to point when you want to scan each value in an array. For example, when you scan the first position, you want to go to the last position, we use pointers, and references for the address of the variables used. Next is user defined data types. These are data types that are defined by the user itself. That means uh, we create our own identifiers, right? Same that way, data types are defined by the user, are called as abstract or user-defined data types. The following are class, structure, union, enumeration, type def defined data type. Now there are a set of data type modifiers for each all these three data types we use. There are data type modifiers. This is to modify the length of the data that a particular data type can hold. Suppose if you only want to hold a long number of values or positive values, or in another variable you want to hold negative values, we use these data type modifiers. The available modifiers in C++ are signed, unsigned, short, long. This is how they are classified. For usually signed is using integer, character, and long. In unsigned we use in integer, character, but here it's short. For long modifiers we use integer and double, and in short we use integer. These are the data types with the modifiers and the size of each of the data types and its range. For short int, carry size is 2 bytes. Range is from minus 32,768 to 32,767. For unsigned short int, these are actually positive values. Unsigned short values like 32, 31, those type of short values are stored in this type of data type. For in which what type of variable we are declaring. The range is 0 to 65,535, and unsigned int again. Here we can use positive at any range of values. The size is 4, the usual size of integer data type. The range is 0 to 4,000 and 4,294,967,295, and integer data type size is 4. This is range, and etc. for the rest of it. Next we look into enumerated data types. This is the user defined data types that we look into. It is a user defined data type which provides the facility to specify possible values of a variable by meaningful symbolic names. To for for us to make it easier to remember, it's like defining a data type other than a keyword. That means we're using identifiers here, and we use the keyword enum here, enum. This is the format. Enum tag is equal to value 1, value 2, value n, where tag is the identifier. Suppose if you want to make an identifier, say fruit, usually when you write enum fruit equal to say apple, mango, and in the next line you can write fruit AB. Here, because you declared enum fruit is equal to a certain set of values, you can use fruit as a data type other than a keyword. Here we use an identifier as a keyword. So fruit AB, A's value will be equal to apple and B's value will be equal to mango. Now here's an example of the enumerated data types. Example is enum days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Here in the next line we write days we declare a variable equal to Sunday. That means the first variable we'll declare will be allocated to Sunday. We can initialize our value by inputting it with integer values as well. Like for example, Sunday equal to 2 or Monday equal to 2. So when we write days, when we declare the variable days, we get the value of Sunday, which is 2. Now we're going to the main part of the C++ language, that we use a translator here, that is the compiler. It is actually a computer program software which is used to convert languages of our form to the form the computer can read and execute. The computer can only understand zeros and ones, and if for us to type or command the computer to do what we want in zeros and ones is quite difficult. So we have come up with a computer translator, language translator, which converts our language to zeros and ones so that the computer can understand what we're trying to command it. And the original C++ program means the programs are the commands that we give. It's also called as source code. Now we're going to look into the structure of a program. Program is a set of commands that we give to the computer, which is executed by the compiler so that the computer can understand what task it's been given. And now this is the structure of the program. Documentation section. Each of it is divided into sections. One is documentation section, preprocessor section, global declaration section, class declaration, method definition section, main function, method definition section. Now this is an example of a program. This is the first program in C++. Now the documentation section is actually the comments that we use. In compiler, usually when we run a program, the compiler ignores the documentation section. It's usually used for when we have to understand a program. For example, if a teacher takes a class about programs and if you want to write lecture notes, we use these type of comments. And there are two types of comments that we use in C++ language. That is, first is single comments and multi-line comments. The next one, single line comments are written in the form of two backslashes, and it's written in a single line. Suppose if you want to write a lecture note in paragraph, here the comment that we use is a multi-line comment, that is slash star, and in the end, in like a full stop, you'll have to write star slash, so that it can be indicated to the compiler that it's a multi-line comment. Next is the header file, that is the preprocessor section. It's actually the hash include is actually a directive, usually known as a header files, into which stream that we are going to use in the program. That what type of program we're going to use will be determined by these header files. Hash, it means it's a pound sign, it means directed to what stream that we are using. Here the stream uses input and output, just an output here. Cout hello world is an output that we're gonna be mentioned in the screen or displayed in the screen, and that's so the stream here used is iostream.h. Now using namespace st is just to say that these Cout and Cin, they are the standard input or output devices, and they are using the standard format in C++ library. So to mention that we globally declared it using namespace std. This is the global declaration part. Next is the function. This is the main part of a program, and the compiler accesses the function main. This is the main part of the program, and this int main is the return type. Usually by default we use integer values. Usually for to easier learning we use void so that we don't have to return any value. For functions, when you declare a function in a program, we have to declare it with a return type, just like we declare a variable. We use a data type, right? Same way here also we have to use a data type to declare a function. Also, it's a return type. Now, this is the starting part of the code. We usually, this is the open brace and the closing brace. This is the body of the program, the main part of the program, the set of statements that has to be executed. Now, cout hello world. This is the output device. When you run a program, a screen pops up, and whatever is written in this cout, that will be printed on the displayed on the screen. This is the stream insertion operator, just like the name indicates, stream insertion. And we're uh, inserting a certain set of statements to the screen. Now, since it's written in double quotes, whenever a statement, especially next to cout, if it's mentioned in double quotes, it will display that variable itself. Next is the structure of a C++ program, which divided into section. First is the documentation section. As I mentioned before, this section is ignored by the compiler and are usually known as the comment section. We use single line comments and multi-line comments, usually used when you want to take out lecture notes or when you want to describe a program. Preprocessor section is the header files, as I mentioned before. These are the instructions for the compiler to access a program, and the statement is a header file to direct a program in stream that you choose. Next is the global declaration section. Before starting the main function, that means if you want to when you declare a variable globally or declare a statement globally, for example, in the previous program was mentioned using namespace std. That's a global declaration so that many sub functions can also be accessed by it. Next is the class declaration and method definition functions. It's usually not here. The subsection of global declaration section is defined here. Here class declaration and method definition is defined here. That is the function part. That is when you're using other than main function, if you want to use another function, we have to declare it, right? It's just like using a variable. Like the compiler doesn't know what this variable is all about, so we have to declare it, right? Same way, if you declare a function, if you want to use access a function other than the main function, we have to declare, and that section is called class declaration and method definition section. Next is the main function. This is the entry point of a program, as I mentioned before, and this function is the main part of the program. The next is method of definition. This is the optional section and was usually used in C programming, but it was considered as a part of a program. See, the previous program that I showed you before, it was written cout world, right? Cout was written hello world, so the output will come as hello world. Next is as I mentioned before, it's the comments. Those are the first 3 lines that we saw in the program. That this is a C++ single line comments and multi-line comments. The next is the header file. Those are directives, and they start with the hash symbol or the pound sign, and using name std. That means that all the elements, that means input or output or any other file or variable, these are of C++ standard library. They are declared from C++ standard library, and they are used in standard format. So that's why we declare it as using namespace std. Int main, this is the function's name. Word main is a function's name, and the parenthesis, that is these curved braces, indicates that it's a function. Then the next is curly braces and body of the function. The program starts with the main function, and the body of the function is the set of statements that is a set of commands that we're giving to the operating system, and each statement is ended with a semicolon. Just like in the English language that we stop with a full stop, in computer language we stop it with a semicolon. Next is cout hello world. Since it's in double quotes, it will print hello world just like that. It's the message that we're going to print on the or be displayed on the screen. Next is the return type. This statement is used to return a value to the operating system. Since the data type we used was int, this data type, this return statement will return an integer value. If we had used void here, return statement would not have been required. Usually we use void means so that we can study the program more easily. Usually by default the programming language uses int value for functions. Now that is all for today. I hope that you understood what I've taught today. Thank you.